I would now like to call the discussants, the panelists, please, to the stage. And we have our moderators, who is Gaynor from British Council, our new head of English. And from English in Action, we have Mahbub Leland. Leland. Okay, great. And if we could have now the discussants, please. If you could come up.
Okay, firstly, thank you to the panel members for being able to join us, and thank you all for coming today. I'll just run through how this is going to work. I'm going to ask the panel members to introduce themselves very briefly, just giving a background of who you are and what you do, some of whom you've heard speak in the presentations already. As Andy said, this is about the way forward, and we've been given a lot of food for thought so far today from the various very interesting presentations that we've seen and the discussion earlier. A couple of things that I noticed were there has been a very big focus on training and development for teachers, not just giving technology to teachers. I think that's been a theme throughout. It's gone again. Help. No, it's back again. The other one that I thought that Gary just mentioned, because it's something that Leland and I were discussing earlier, was that the exam can often be the impediment of development. So they were two things that I personally picked out particularly. I'm now going to hand over to Gary and ask you to introduce yourself, please.
Well, I guess you know who I am, so I'm not going to say any more, I don't think. But I, just to reiterate that, I think exams are something that people don't look at. So if you're ever involved in a project about language teaching, have a look at the exams first.
I am Professor Kafiluddin Ahmed, former Chairman, National Curriculum and Textbook Board, now working as consultant curriculum and material development under Primary Education Development Program 3.
Assalamu alaikum. I am Dr. Khairul Alam, former principal Government College. Now I've been working with PDP 3, Primary Education Development Program 3, as a teacher education development consultant. Thank you. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Power. I think I've been introduced already, so I'll just say hello again.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Alison Barrett. I work for the British Council. I'm based in Delhi, but responsible for looking after our English language partnership programs, mainly with the public sector across South Asia. And I've lived and worked in South Asia since 1997. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Arifur Rahman. Basically, I'm an English teacher and a teacher educator, and I'm extremely interested in teacher development, continuous professional development of teachers. I not only teach, but I'm a consultant, ELT consultant with with the EIA and with British Council, and my interest is absolutely teachers.
I'm Leland, Mahbub Leland, working for English in Action as Deputy Team Leader, and now I'll be working one of the moderators for this panel discussion. If I recap some points from the morning sessions, from the morning, we've got a lot of information and international examples, and particularly activities related to ICT in Bangladesh in last 6 to 7 years. If I summarize those things, then we can easily say, in terms of orientation of ICT, distribution of ICT equipments, and in terms of using and trying to use ICT for many purposes, are going really very well. In terms of number of users, are increasing very well. And in terms of ICT for education, it is introduced institutionally. All institutes are having ICT equipments, teachers are getting orientation on ICT, but now, two issues are still there. One, how to use ICT for education, how to use ICT to improve students' learning. This is the issue we need to address, and this is the panel at this moment, discussion at this moment for that issue. What can we do now? What should we do now to increase or improve students' learning or learning outcome through ICT. That is one area. Other part, if I just recall the British High Commissioner's point that empowerment and economic growth goes together. So after school, when it comes to the point relation to economic growth or empowerment, then women is an issue. So what should be done through ICT for women's development, women's empowerment, and in long term for economic growth of the country? So as we have many experience and knowledgeable resources here as a panel discussant, we better not go one by one. Better we can make it an interactive session. So discussant can raise their issues and other can add. And at the end, we'll also open the floor for audience to add their points or their comments, because this is kind of an open discussion session, and we'll be expecting some action points for our future, and we'll be expecting some areas of challenges, what we need to address, what we need to consider. So I'll make it open for our honorable discussants. So if you please, Professor Kafiluddin and Dr. Siddiq Rahman.
Actually, I like to begin as long as I deal with the curriculum development. And usually what we say that curriculum is the heart of education system. And all of you know that recently in 2011, in accordance with the National Education Policy, we have revised the primary curriculum and developed the textbooks for grades 1 to 5 and have introduced in 2013. And with the introduction, we have also tried out in selected schools. And by this time, we have refined 11 major textbooks in line with the textbooks of other countries. Now, the very objective of this, seminar, though is education, technology, and women, but as long as what usually we are concerned that whatever best curriculum we develop, whatever best textbooks we prepare, all will go in vain unless these are implemented or transacted in the classroom properly. Our main English as a foreign language is taught compulsorily from grade 1 to 12. But we know that for language teaching, we need to ensure the achievement of 4 skills. But we are equally concerned with our Bangla language, which is our mother tongue. Though Bangla is a subject, but this is not only one subject. Bangla is a medium of instruction for other subjects except English. So if the child is weak in Bangla, he or she will be weak in other subjects too. But while implementing the Bangla subjects, we are very much concerned that even most of the children of grade 3 and 4 and 5 also, they cannot read properly. They cannot write properly. So this is our daunting challenge, that to implement and transact the curricula for every subject, including the language, is a challenge. And we have to address more or less 55% teachers are female. So we have to address them with the knowledge on technology to enhance and to ensure the learning progress and achievement of the children. And more or less, more than 50% learners are girl students. So this seminar is a very timely one, that we have to address the children, the women, and the girl students particularly. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Kafiluddin. I think Dr. Khairul Alam will also address, also give us some
Thank you.
way forward and points about what to do to improve learning.
Now in the morning when I was here, the listening, I was thinking the use of technology is a necessity or it is a belief. I don't know. He may know. Can you tell? It is not belief or it is not necessity. I think both. If we have no belief that the technology may help us, then we will not use technology. And if we only believe, then we will not use it. But it is necessity for, not for women only, it is necessity for everybody, men, women, both. When we are thinking about use of technology, this is not the past thing, it is a very recent thing. In PDP2, we were not very much aware of using technology in teacher development or in teaching learning. In PDP3, PDP means everybody knows Primary Teacher Education Development Program 3. We had clear cut in primary education, use of technology came in front of us. We very consciously designed the program of use of technology. I am talking about the development of diploma in primary education of program. My two colleagues are here. Dr. Shormishta was there, and our Professor Yen was with us. And there are other experts from abroad and from IER, from our local experts. Whole teacher development program was designed considering two main things. One is teachers should know this subject, teachers should have subject knowledge, and as well as teachers should have pedagogical knowledge. The content knowledge and pedagogical knowledge in combined, the package was developed as PCK, SK, PK, PCK. So when we designed, the design was completed, then we thought about the development of training materials. We designed one module for content knowledge and other was pedagogical knowledge. Two books was, one book was supported other books. So we designed the delivery process like that. The whole design, we developed a template how to develop this session plan. So the whole session plan was like that. It was based on very interactive participatory mode. So we thought that technology will support this package. In this way, whole diploma and primary education was designed based on technology. And later on, when we piloted it in PTI, we observed that it worked very nicely and very effectively. The course was delivered there. Now it is going on. You can see how technology can help teacher. But we are very much alert that technology will not command teacher. Technology will support teacher. We are very much aware of these things. But teacher will not be substitute of any technology.
Of course not.
That was our philosophy.
Thank you, Dr. Khairul Alam. Basically, a lot of things are happening in the two education ministries in Bangladesh, from Ministry of Primary Education and Ministry of Secondary Education, and another entity, National Textbook and Curriculum Board, NCTB, who produce books and teacher guides for all subjects, for all students and teachers. And now, a lot of things are happening, a lot of things are moving under PDP3 and under other projects. But still, and teachers are getting training on ICT use, teachers are getting training on how to develop materials to teach. And now the questions, things are happening, integration are happening. Now things, is there still any challenges? And are those initiatives are enough to improve teaching and learning outcomes of the students, or it has already happened? Can anyone, make some comments about that?
Thank you. I think there are still very great challenges, and one of the things that has come up repeatedly as a theme through the day is the issue of quality. And we've talked about quality in terms of children's learning experience. We've talked about quality in relation to the professional development opportunity for teachers, and obviously those two things are related and connected. The other challenge that has come up at several points during the day is the issue of scale. And we've talked both in terms of Pakistan and in Bangladesh of the size of the challenge, of the number of teachers that need support and professional development, the number of students that need to be reached and experience greater quality learning. And there are enormous challenges of scale. And I think the third layer of challenge that we've touched upon several points during the day is around equity. And we focus particularly in this seminar on gender, but I think there are also issues of rurality. So I think there are questions then about in what ways ICT might be able to address some of those challenges of quality, large-scale national programs, and equity for both people in terms of their gender but also their location. And I think we have some hints from some of the programs that we've heard of today that ICT, in the context of other aspects such as teacher professional development, curriculum materials, pre-service training and all those sorts of things, that ICT might have a role. But I think there's an awful lot more to find out about how and in what ways and what shape technology might help address some of those three issues.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. I think Alison will add something here.
I wanted to emphasize Tom's point and to pick up on something you said earlier, actually, about the quality of implementation. My role across the region now is further and further away from the classroom and the training room than perhaps I would like it to be, but looking really at the quality of programs and the quality of interventions. And we've heard a lot today about the variety of projects that are going on that are trying to bring about a change in learning or in teacher behaviour, teacher practice. And I'm particularly interested, with my kind of quality assurance hat on, in how we can exploit technology more effectively to use it as a tool for monitoring, mentoring, for accountability purposes, for helping teachers monitor and track the progress of their learners. So a kind of assessment for learning approach, and the role that technology has in those aspects. So, for example, at the last seminar I think we held here, we talked about the possibility of using mobile apps to assess students' productive skills in the classroom, their speaking skills, and how the teacher can be trained to use that device to test, to do a small kind of classroom-based test to see what that child is able to do, and then to kind of track that child's progress through their school year. So that's one use of technology that I'm particularly interested in. The second is around monitoring and evaluation. How can we use technology, again, mobile phones, the recording functions, for example, for teachers to film each other, to record their classrooms. I'm sure you've been doing a lot of that in English in Action as well. And to upload those short films, to mail them to each other, to share their practice, their experience with each other. But then also as a program manager, you can use that to help you track the changes in classroom practice that are happening through a project. So that aspect, I think, is really important.
Thank you. Yeah, Dr. Arifa.
I'd like to kind of take a more wider perspective from a very overarching point of view. I'm talking from my pet kind of interest, which is the sociology of education. And obviously, the inequality thing comes in there. I mean, it has been repeatedly today brought up about the inequalities in education. And I like the word, what Gary has said about social you wanted social justice, right? Now, in Bangladesh particularly, I'd like to speak in terms of Bangladesh because that's where I have my experience. In Bangladesh, there are long embedded, conventions of injustice, and in line with it could be class and gender and locality, like urban, rural, and all kinds of injustices. Now, what I would like to see going forward is what the policymakers think about this and how they would go about actually bringing in compensatory intervention policies on how to deal with these things. And these have to be very, very long term. And it's ICT, of course, and all other aspects of education. My second point is, we have talked about motivation. A lot of the speakers have talked about motivation and how that's so important, both for learners and for teachers. And if you think about teachers' motivation to, accept and actually implement all the wonderful ideas that have been floated, I mean, so many things are happening on so many fronts. Are we really thinking about the motivation of teachers? Because the first thing that we need to think about is their salaries. In Bangladesh, what is a teacher's salary? How many teachers stick to the profession? I regret the fact that at our university we have an MA in TESOL, an MA in ELT program, and all of them have their eyes on the university. As soon as they get out, they are into the universities. We have school teachers coming in to do an MA in TESOL and ELT, and as soon as they finish, they don't go back to their schools. They straight off go off to and particularly with all these private universities, and I don't want to mention the actual quality of these universities. They will hire anybody who's got that degree, and here we've got a great kind of. I sometimes feel we are really kind of contributing to the injustice. And so, overlooking these things is an extremely dangerous thing. And what one of our researchers have called the policy of benign neglect. You're neglecting in a very benign way, you just don't look at it anymore. So how many people are we leaving behind? And how many people are we taking forward? And my last and final point is about, I think it's already been mentioned about examinations and how curriculum, the objectives of the curriculum, do they match up or align with the exam system? And we know very well that the high school exams in Bangladesh, the SSC and the higher secondary, these two exams are like gatekeepers to education. They will either make or break a person's career. And obviously, students and teachers are only kind of concerned with how they're going to pass that exam. And we know that the nature of the examination is completely for very unreliable and invalid nature. And Sharmishta and we've done a research study on secondary school alignment, and we found that ground reality says that they were only, teaching and learning to pass the exam. And we now hear all these golden A's and all these GPA 5s. But on the other hand, all these golden A's and GPA 5s in real life are not competent. So these are the great challenges. And we really have, every time I go to a seminar, I'm sorry I have to say this, I bring up the issue of examinations, people just don't listen, particularly the policymakers. They just do not think it is something to be talked about. They just want to have these huge projects. The donors are there, the money is there, and we have all these high-tech things to be talking about. But what about the exam? The exams have a negative backwash effect on learning. And if you have the right sort of exams, it can have a positive backwash effect.
Thank you, Dr. Arifa. She made a very good point. Yeah, in one sense, Bangladesh education system is exam-driven education systems. In 12 years, students sit for four public exams. And practically, the calendar year, academic year is 10 months. From October at the school level, exam starts, and then year also ends. But still, and there is ICT policy, ICT law, though there are some issues not supportive for freedom of voice always. But ICT in education is really good thing and good vision. In the morning we heard this from Onicho, this presentation, and some issues as challenges were also raised. One was power issue, electricity and power issue. I would request if you have any example or if you have any point, you can also address this issue, how we can solve this thing or overcome this challenge. And we haven't heard anything still from Dr. Gary, sorry.
I'll say something about that. Yeah. I mean, one of the advantages, I guess, of mobile technologies is that they're not so power dependent in the sense that, I mean, they can be charged through solar power, for example. I noticed on one of the slides people talking about the increase of, I think there was Anil Chowdhury talking about the increase of use of solar power. So, these are the sorts of things that I'm conscious that you guys are doing here. I mean, I'm obviously not a specialist in the Bangladesh system, but I think it's thinking creatively about the use of technology and not, I mean, I agree. I don't think going for big hit projects works all the time. I think it's looking at local activity. I mean, you were talking about the issue of making sure that the local language is actually part of the environment as well, and getting people to think about that. But you can start thinking quite, I mean, my mind starts ticking over about, actually, well, what could I do about that? So my mind starts thinking, well, okay, I can get people searching on the internet, maybe via a mobile phone, and maybe you don't need too many of those in the classroom. You can work in sort of small groups. You only need one or two of these things potentially in the classroom. You can get children searching on the internet in English, so you're getting your English going, but they bring that information back to the classroom and they make, for example, a presentation in Bangla. I mean, it's a very simple-minded example. But encouraging teachers to think about that and giving them the time and the space, the mental space to actually do that kind of thing, that kind of works. And then saying, okay, well, this is going to work better than, as everybody said, and that there's no point putting a bunch of computers into a school or necessarily loading up with a load of tablets or whatever. 2 or 3 of these things in a context can make a massive, massive difference. You've got less of a problem around, sort of a power issue and so on and so forth. So it's sort of looking at the the context, thinking about what's available, thinking about what the particular issues are, thinking about the questions you want to answer, and then coming up with a solution rather than thinking, okay, we can come from this level and we can solve it. And it clearly doesn't work, and we've seen that time and time again. So.
Thank you, Dr. Gary. Yeah.
Actually, what Dr. Arifa has said is pertinent regarding the exam, especially from secondary onward and so to primary as of now. But what we are going to introduce regarding the assessment is this, that usually for grades 1 to 4, the exam system is this, that there are 2 periodical exam and 1 is final exam, and for grade 5, 2 periodical exam and 1 is primary completion exam. But besides this, both under formative evaluation or formative assessment, besides the 3 kinds of formative assessment such as fill up the gaps, matching, and true and false, we like to introduce, and the ministry has already approved, that under continuous pupils assessment, 20 marks is earmarked for this, because continuous assessment is an integral part of teaching learning process, teaching learning activities, teaching learning method. And only through continuous pupils assessment, the learning difficulties of the children can be identified and the remedial measures can be taken. If only we bend upon the periodical exam, then the learning difficulty of the children can be identified after 3 or 4 months. Thereafter, teachers won't find any time and scope
to provide remedial measures until the continuous pupils assessment, which is accomplished during the teaching learning process or after the completion of the teaching learning strategy, and it can be accomplished in 3 ways: through orally, through pen and pencil test, and through observation. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Kafiluddin. If we want to make some more comments, then if you don't have anything, then we
take
can
a
open
few
it
minutes.
for the audience.
The quality of primary education depends not only for assessment, not only for ICT process. It needs many things. We need a very good school room, accommodation, and we need good teacher. We need many supports. But government of Bangladesh thought that we have minimum facilities in schools, but we need very competent teachers. In PDP 3, government has given emphasis to develop good teachers. That is why government framed the diploma in primary education. It is upgraded training, upgraded curriculum than before CNET curriculum, CNET training. That was, previously it was training, now the diploma in primary education is education. So there is a big shift from CNET to DPED. And government thought that if we implement DPED qualitatively, we need good trainers. In Bangladesh, we have 3 sets of trainers in primary education. One is from URC, Upazila Resource Center trainers. Second is Primary Teacher Training Institute, PTI instructors, and NAEF faculty members. Government has planned to develop these 3 sets of trainers. And they will be given 2 types of training. One is local training, other is from international training. And we are going to implement this program very soon. Apart from that, government thought that when a teacher will get diploma in primary education, when a teacher will be graduated from PTI, that is not the end, that is the beginning of his learning. Then government designs CPD, Continuous Professional Development Training. Lot of trainings are there. We are developing that trainings based on diploma philosophy, diploma in primary philosophy. All trainings are interactive, participatory, and reflective training. So I hope when this program will be implemented, the scenario of classroom teaching learning, will be changed. Teaching learning culture will be changed, and will be learner-centered teaching will be happen that time. So we have to do a lot of things. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Khairul Alam. Yeah.
Sorry.
Gaina?
Thank you. I think there's quite a few interesting points that we've just, that the panel have just shared with us around ways that we can take things forward around teacher training, as you've just mentioned, offline solutions or less power-dependent solutions for using mobile technology within the classroom, the issues of inequality and having compensatory policies, I think you said, for raising or evening out the inequality of gender. I think it's now time to ask members of the audience if you have any comments. But can we focus, please? The session is trying to think of ways that we can move things forward. We know that there are a number of challenges that we have within the Bangladesh context. So any comments or ideas about how we could move things forward in the future?
Thank you. one particular question we're kind of recycling throughout today's session, the power source of using technology in the field. As it was mentioned, mobile devices are not that power hungry, and it can be managed. I specifically wanted to mention one project that some of my previous colleagues, some of my colleagues from some other organization I worked with, they're doing. They're depending on solar technology to charge their laptops, and also they're using that solar panel to generate money for their local organization. They're letting people charge their mobile phones in that, and through that they're collecting funds to use in schools. And they're using multimedia-based materials in laptops and in televisions. And in near future, they're thinking about using Raspberry Pi. I think it was also mentioned by Dr. Mottram, probably. So that's a model, if implemented well, could be really useful in the near future. The name of that project is Light of Hope. So we look forward to its results in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments from anyone?
Yeah. Shall I add something? I think power issue for education to use ICT. English in Action also has made some example of, say, using rechargeable speaker that can, if you charge it once, then you can use it for 1 week, and also mobile phone. That can also be a solution, because heavyweight power is always not required for education and learning purpose. This is basically about, it has many ways.
Can I just make a comment? I mean, one of the things that always surprises me when I come to events like this is how inward-looking people tend to be. I mean, I don't mean that as a sort of criticism just of here, but I mean of everywhere. And there are lots and lots of projects around the world. I mean, it doesn't take very long to actually begin to look at other places, like some of the things I mentioned, you know, Africa particularly, and I know colleagues here have got lots more experience of that kind of project than I have. But it's interesting that we don't really kind of look at what's out there and then think, how can we adapt that to what we're doing? So that sounds a fascinating project, and I will try and find some more information out about that so I can spread that. And I think we can more easily kind of look at what's happening in other similar countries. It's like what was implied by the keynote, Anir Chowdhury, about kind of, you know, global south to global south. He didn't use those terminologies, but that's the sort of thing that's very much part of the development world. Look at what's happening elsewhere in similar contexts. I mean, I talked about Pakistan exactly because of that, because I have a look around the literature. I think, oh, that's an interesting sort of thing. And I mention it, and they say, oh, and Andy mentioned security. Well, there are issues of security in Pakistan. I'm almost not even allowed out of my hotel in some ways. It's a very difficult circumstance to work in. So you think about, well, what are possible solutions there? And you think about your own experiences. You look at Plan Sibal, and you think, well, it's not going to work here, but maybe if I do it in this kind of way. So I think, you know, that creativity, that looking at the literature, trying to encourage people to look at what's going on in similar contexts and thinking, well, could we learn something from that rather than trying to always come up with a local solution? And I know we can't generalize things easily, but at the same time, there are lots of interesting things going on out there in the world that we need to have more information about. So,
can I?
Alison wants to have something. Yeah,
Can you hear me with this? Yeah. So I think also taking on from that, you can't underestimate the. Okay. Thank you. You can't underestimate the power of the people we work with at finding their own solutions as well. So, for example, we've been working in Bihar in India for the last 2 years on a DFID-funded teacher education program. One of the most kind of undeveloped states in India. I'm sure many of you are familiar. And what we found working with teacher educators there was that they were very reluctant to open their arms to any kind of technological components of the project at the beginning. But once they recognized that through developing their own skills and capacities in using ICTs, they grew in their professional confidence, they became more credible with their peers, they became leaders in the field. People kept coming to them and saying, oh, you can use email, you've got a Twitter account, how do you do that, how can I do that? We saw an increase in the use of email from 10% at the beginning of the project. If our teacher educators had an email address, now 90% of them do. They found their own way to access email. They found their own power sources. So, you know, sometimes I think the momentum can generate itself, if you like, rather than us always trying to find the answer for the people we're working with.
So one thing I can add on point. We have a program on subject-based training. We have 6 major subjects and other 3 subjects. More total 9 subjects. We are dealing with 9 subjects, and we have on training course on English, and the English manuals are developed by direct government with this active support of EIA, English in Action. We have taken support from EIA and the book was developed. Now government and EIA thinking that more how we can get more support from EIA, and we are just working on it. I hope that in future more EIA support will be taken by the government. We are working on it. Thank you.
Actually, this sort of one-shot training is not enough to sustain, especially for the primary school teachers. For that reason, though, we have also, taken up a very massive program of curriculum dissemination training to be imparted among 400,000 numbers of teachers and officials from central to field for 10 days training. But from our past experience, what we see that this sort of one-shot training is not enough. After some time, they forget. In that case, what we should do? We should take a very pragmatic, continuous, training program. How? We cannot, initiate such type of program which for face-to-face training. For that reason, we have incorporated one, program in the PDB3 in discussing in the midterm review that the teacher training would be a continuous one using electronic media. Otherwise, it will not be possible to continue and sustain the training program among such huge numbers of teachers.
Okay, thank you. I think Tom wants to add something, and I'm not sure about our time, so Christine can confirm us. We have 5 more minutes, and we also need to take some more questions from here. So please, Tom.
I just wanted to. Is that working?
Yeah, it's working. And you have 2 microphones at this moment.
Okay. I just wanted to pick up on Alison's point about people finding their own solutions and the power of that. And I'm reminded very strongly of the first project that I did in this context about a decade ago in very poor rural schools in South Africa, where teachers had literally nothing. They had no textbooks, they had no books of any kind. If you were lucky, they had a piece of chalk. And in that context, we were desperately worried. Most of the schools had no electricity, not intermittent, they just had none. And we were very worried about how we were going to carry out this mobile learning program in these schools. And there were issues of security and all sorts of things that we were very, very worried about. We encouraged the teachers immediately that they went back to their schools, and we worked with them for a number of years, to engage the head teacher and the school management committee and the community and explain what they were doing and discuss the problems and challenges and work out solutions. And they all, in different ways, found out often really quite different solutions to issues of power and security and engagement and ownership. And it was very powerful to see that happen. I think the challenge is, how do you give people that freedom and empower people to take those sort of decisions and to take that control with the need to work at very large scale to address the kind of challenges that our friends have been talking about? I think there are some answers in that potentially in technology. In English in Action, we provide offline videos on mobile devices that show teachers different ways in which things can be done in the classroom, that show them different ways of being, and they can talk about those and choose from. Gary was showing us in Pakistan, bringing in people from outside with ideas that can share and discuss. So I think it's that combination of making people believe that things can be different, to see that it's possible to bring about change, and giving them the freedom and the ownership to work out what that means for them in their particular local context, and doing that at large scale. And it's a difficult trick to pull off.
Yeah, Dr. Arifa wanted to make a comment,
Just a
then we'll
small
again
comment.
go back to the audience.
This is just a kind of a comment from what Dr. Khairul Alam has said about the EIA having produced a whole lot of extra materials for the English for Today books. Now, my only comment is, having gone through this huge process of training the teachers and the SD cards and everything, if I'm not wrong, the NCTB has actually scrapped that book and they're writing a new one. The new English for Today book, particularly classes 9 and 10 and all that, they're all being scrapped, and new people are writing books. And the important thing to bring up here is that the NCTB has a policy of writing books in 2 months. Now, how can you write a book in 2 months, a really researched book, piloted? Because I was asked to do one thing and I said, no, I can't do it in 2 months. I'm sorry. So I was dropped. So these are little things that are happening within the system which really needs to be looked at.
Thank you, Dr. Arifa. Again, we will go back to the audience. Is there any question? Yeah, please. One question we found here. I find here.
Thank you. Last year, I was in a college, possibly it was a grade 11 class physics. Subject was that day was for Newton's law. I was there in the class for the entire duration, almost 40 minutes plus. The teacher did not explain the Newton's law itself. The teacher helped the students, or teachers took the students solving 2 problems, and teacher said that make sure memorize this, and one of them will be, you might be able to attend one in the final. That institution became one of the top 10 in the country this year. And if you happen to sit in the interview board in a couple of years' time and ask those students what is Newton's law, they are going to cut a very sorry figure. The teacher was happy and still happy because the students' result was great. Parents are happy. Ministry of Education, they are happy. College, the management committee is happy. Everybody is happy. All hundreds of GPA plus, GPA 5, GPA plus, everybody is happy. That everybody is beating their own drum. Unfortunately, the actual learning is not taking place. A couple of months back, I was in an interview board and I asked one of the candidates, what is IRR? She couldn't answer. She is a business graduate from a very reputed university in Dhaka. I said, my dear lady, I learned IRR from Microsoft Excel. I'm not a business student. So that's the quality of learning taking place in our education institution. So how much technology you adapt, how much mentoring you do, how much motivate you do to your teachers and the education system, unless, according to Dr. Arifa, unless you change the system of examination, I think nothing will happen on ground. So I think whatever you do, and about the technology introduction or technology adaptation, I have been to many rural areas, schools and colleges. I was talking to, I talked to many teachers.
Can you please make it
Sure,
brief,
many
please?
senior teachers. Many said, I'm here as headmaster for 15 or 18 years. I never used technology. Why should I need to own an email address? So there are a lot of solutions. So I think that a very small way of, small steps can help us. So teachers are claiming their salaries. If the government makes a promulgation, okay, teachers need to claim their salary from their own email address. You don't have to train the teachers. Teachers will find out how to use technology to claim their salary.
Motivation.
Thank you.
As I said, motivation.
We are not that much disappointed. Nothing is happening, this is not true. Something is happening in Bangladesh.
Lot of things are happening, there's no doubt.
All teachers are not bad.
Yeah, lots of positive things are here.
And
Yeah.
all people are also
Not good, yeah. Exam is also an issue also, and I think Bangladesh is, I think, the only one country where minister announces the date for examination in the world. So, I don't know. So, we also seeing some hands for questions from here. We can take 2 more questions, Christine? Yeah, 2 more questions, Sharmishta, and then next, yeah, Ruxana, final. That's why technology-based teachers are not good. Traditional teachers can speak.
How much
Okay.
technology we will use, that is the policy matter. We are not abruptly going to change the classroom culture. Day after tomorrow, we will not throw teacher and set a machine. That will not be happen here anyway.
Just a minute. Actually, no technology or no method is the best one.
Best.
Yes.
That method, that technology is
Combination.
best by which the children can learn.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we can go
start
back to
by-
Sharmishta.
Can I start by agreeing with that? And it is very much the context, need from the context. The culture predominantly is based on face-to-face interaction. So even in professional context, any learning concept, that's a very, very core element everybody needs to remember when we're talking about using technology for learning. And of course, there are ways to combine both, and many of the initiatives we heard today are doing exactly that. Learning from outside, learning from within the context, many opportunities. I'm just wanting to share one thought, last thought on it, is from my side, is there was a suggestion in the morning from the keynote speaker that rethinking teacher training with more of a focus on practice and the role of technology that that can be played in there. If we think about that and what this panel has just suggested in the discussion, there were two issues coming up as problems. One is to do with the use of technology once again at scale, and the other one is to do with quality, how technology can be helpful for these 2 issues. Now, both actually, thankfully, luckily, can really, technology can help both the issues very, very well. Because if we think about what NCTB and DPE, for the pre-service, in-service teacher training program, curriculum refinement, all the plans that are on the plate now and the work that we are going towards, they're all thinking about using technology to ensure and enhance quality. And at a scale, if we want to use technology, that can work. The audiovisual materials came up a lot in today's discussion. That can work as a good way of ensuring the same standard at scale across the country. And I know that DP is thinking in that line. I also know that NCTB is planning, even for the curriculum dissemination training, to use some of the audiovisual materials. So yeah, that was just my
Thank you,
comment.
Sharmishta. We can go for final comments from Ruxana. Please, in short and brief.
Wherein with all respect, I'm saying that she commented that none of the teachers are actually capable of teach in the English class. So I would like to request British Council and English in Action that please, we will go for the teacher training, but at the same time, please provide basic language course to the teachers. Their technology can be a very big way to do that, but I think this is...
There is one issue. English in Action already developed one course There is English language for teachers, one set for primary, one set for secondary on audio based. But still there are some issues about practice hour for teachers outside the schools. So I think gradually, some point of time, that will also be addressed. I talked a lot and time is already run out, so now I'll request Gaina to wrap it up and thank all and then hand it over to Kirsten.
Thanks, Leland. Okay, thank you everyone. Thanks first to the panel members for your thoughts and ideas, and to those of you, excuse me, in the audience with your questions. Just as a reminder, there are the flip charts outside because we haven't got an opportunity to hear from everybody within the time allowed to take things forward, or commentary on things that you've heard both today and that you hear tomorrow. Please share your thoughts with us on those charts over the next day, or today and tomorrow morning. But thank you. Can we just thank the panel for their participation? Thank you.